Here we are. Welcome back to Happy Hour. I'm so bad at these introductions. Welcome to Happy Hour with Perry Goldstein, me, and Maggie Loney, my beautiful co-host to my side, her. It is our Victory Monday. We are going to talk about some actual football that happened yesterday. I don't know about you, Maggie, but I definitely have been riding the high of the Packers win. The Packers' total domination of the Vikings. Honestly, that's not even me being a fan. We dropped a 40 burger in the Vikings home stadium. That hasn't happened to Mike Zimmer in how many years? You sent me that stat that someone sent you.
Or something like that.
2012. So if we didn't get a handshake last year, we definitely didn't get a handshake this year from Zimmer.
And it wasn't even COVID's fault.
We just ripped one. The offense came out roaring. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Maggie, how are you feeling post-win? Break it down.
I haven't been able to stop smiling. This is Victory Monday flannel. I normally wear it to work, but since I'm working remotely, I wore it to my
home
living
office.
room. Yeah, I've just been chilling with Victory Monday, and we're just gonna ride the wave for as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's good to be back.
Cheers. Yeah. So lots to like. Definitely a few things. You know, it wasn't a perfect game. Definitely not a perfect game, even though we scored 43 points on the Vikings. But a lot to like, right? Like, Packers came out clearly in rhythm, clearly very cohesive together, looked very different from last year. I know that we stalled out in the first quarter a little bit in the red zone, but the drives up until then felt really, really succinct. Rodgers knew exactly what he was doing. He got the ball out. I think he averaged 2.3 seconds this game in getting the ball out. So was really, really impressed with just how that offense flowed.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like for it being week one and us kind of waiting to get a glimpse of what year two of Matt LaFleur's offense looks like, this is going to be good. Like we already kind of saw pieces of it last season. Matt LaFleur has different pieces now to utilize more effectively. Like, love Geronimo Allison, not the guy you want running a jet sweep. Like, you swap him out with Tyler Ervin. Things just look better. You don't want Jimmy Graham blocking. Then you have Josiah DeGuara, like a human bowling
taking
ball.
Down two Vikings at once.
Yeah, so it's just, I think we finally are starting to see like that marriage, and we're starting to see what being multiple means for Matt LaFleur now that he has the pieces to actually be multiple.
Yeah, and I loved that we very much, I think, saw the Matt LaFleur playbook. And I wouldn't say that it was anything sort of drastically different, but you're right. There was jet sweeps, there was end arounds. DeGuara was catching passes out of the backfield. I liked that we had those deep shots. Like Rodgers definitely threw the ball downfield like he does so beautifully. But we also really tested the Vikings going sideline to sideline. I wouldn't say that the run game was anything like spectacular, but it got the job done enough for us to feel like we could get the ball downfield because we had tested the Vikings line enough. And Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams, actually all four running backs got touches in this game.
Mm-hmm.
We really saw, I think, like the full offensive spectrum from all four running backs to all four tight ends had snaps, whether it was they actually caught passes or were just in there blocking. And our wide receivers, surprise, surprise, to nobody other than the rest of the NFL landscape, actually stepped up and made some plays. So Lazard and MVS, we can talk about Devontae Adams all day long, but Lazard and MVS had I think, really good game.
Yeah, and I mean, I got into it a little bit with somebody on Twitter about this earlier, just kind of the perception that MVS has. And, you know, people are still, like I had said, once he finds consistency, look out. And there, I guess, is an opinion on Twitter that maybe he will never be consistent. But if he's not, you still live and die by his hand. And the Packers have had plenty of those. I mean, Brett Favre was a player that you lived and died by his hand. But when MVS is good, like he works into this offense. And I think it's a testament to Aaron Rodgers and what he knows MVS can be, that he dropped that key third down conversion. Packers have to, try for a field goal. And then he comes back to him and he gets a touchdown. And he would have had two if he didn't get tripped up. But he brought the ball down to like the 2-yard line a couple drives later. So just being able to go back to him, I think was really important for MVS and for Aaron Rodgers to kind of say, like, we need you in this offense. And MVS stepped up big. So, I mean, I know that people are kind of frustrated by that lack of consistency, but it's year 3.
Yeah.
It takes a while. He's putting it together. Devontae took a couple of years. Like, you just got to be patient with these guys. And I think that this is the year that he really does actually put everything together.
And if that was what we get out of MVS is some really, really great clutch plays and maybe I think he had maybe 2 or 3 drops, then if that's what he is, great. He's wide receiver 3.
Right.
I think he fits. He's growing into the role that they're planning for him quite nicely. I loved seeing Rodgers trust in him. Just like you said, he went back to him, no questions, gave him a hug on the sidelines, completely gushed about him in the post game interview. So it's clear that Rodgers is like, I don't care what you're saying about this guy. I know what he can do, and I'm going to keep throwing him the ball. Aaron, you didn't miss anything about Jair yet. Don't worry, we'll get to the defense in a little bit. You know that I'm going to have my thoughts on Jair. But I think let's talk about Devontae for a second, just because
because we have to.
That was a clinic.
Mm-hmm.
That was an absolute clinic. He had 14 catches on 17 targets, which is insane. I think it was 156 yards. He averaged about 11.1 yards per catch and had 2 touchdowns, should have been 3. Honestly, that first touchdown that he dropped was a surprise to me. That's the kind of
uncharacteristic.
Yeah, completely expect him to catch, but he came back and knocked out of the park. Starting off where he left off last season. I'm thinking about the Seahawks divisional game and how he lit the field on fire, and he's coming back out with the same energy. I think we definitely expected Aaron Rodgers to pick on the Vikings secondary a little bit in this game, and they did. They did that. Welcome to the NFL. This is try and stop, an elite wide receiver being thrown a ball from a Hall of Fame quarterback. Good luck. I don't think the Vikings defensive front helped them in any way. They got no pressure on Rodgers, but Davante Adams, man, my bold prediction mid game, which I actually still completely stand by, and I don't think is that bold, is Davante Adams is going to get his first All-Pro this season.
I like it. My bold prediction for Cheesehead TV last week was that Davante Adams has a career year, which would be 1,400 yards and 14 touchdowns, and he's well on his way.
He's on his way. Yeah, he's actually on track for that after this game, and that's look. He's not going to get nearly as many targets in every single game as he did this week. I think it just fit the game plan quite nicely. That Viking secondary is a little bit weak. It's weak right now. So it made sense. But Aaron Rodgers, even with Devontae on the field, still spread the ball around quite nicely. All the receivers got touches, got targets, I should say. All 4 running backs, like we said, even DeGuara caught a catch. So it wasn't like we were forcing the ball to Davante Adams and making it work. It was flowing quite naturally, and he was open. Give Davante 4 inches, and Aaron can fit the ball in there. So that first touchdown, oh my God, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, this is the stuff too that this is what you want to see progress. We have a really small sample size right now. We know who Davante Adams is. He's exactly what we saw on Sunday. That is Davante to his core. MVS looked really good. He had the inconsistencies, but Allen Lazard, perfect passer rating when targeted. Could have been 2 touchdowns. He gets the ball down to the 2. He does the whole mailbox, put my hand up as I'm splitting 2 defenders. Back
to Aaron Rodgers. Don't worry, I'm still gonna catch it.
That was my favorite play of the game, and it wasn't even a touchdown. But
it should have been. He tripped himself up.
This is the stuff that you want to see from these guys. If every week you have this kind of reliability from your receiving core, you don't need much else. You have a really solid tight end group. You have really good running backs. Like you said, Aaron Rodgers is spreading the ball around. So I know EQ was inactive. We didn't really see anything
that was
from
surprising.
Malik Taylor. Yeah, but this starting 3, I know, again, not trying to get too excited, but there was a lot of promise there. There's a lot that you can build off of just from week 1. And,
yeah,
we talked about how the cornerback group is not the best. So take it with a grain of salt, see what happens later on in the season. But there's a lot to like, and I think it was a confidence boost for this entire offense.
We didn't even need more than 3 wide receivers, and we aren't going to see, I think, lots of more than 3 wide receiver sets on the field. There, we got 13 personnel also. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, Maggie. Like, I know we're rooting for 23, but like we saw DeGuara and Tanyan and Jace on the field at the same time. We saw a mix of Mercedes Lewis in there. We saw DeGuara in the backfield with Aaron Jones. We saw a lot of Jamal Williams, which was great for my fantasy team.
And
also
for Big B.
my sleeper, yes, and for Big B if he's joined us. And it was, I think, like we expected, to be more heavy on the running back and tight end personnel groupings rather than we're not going to see 5 wide receivers on the field. We're not going to go spread offense. We did that I think I saw it only a handful of times, and one of them, Rodgers had to call timeout because he couldn't get the playoff. So it was just, it's not the way that we're going to run it. And I liked what LaFleur pulled out. I'm really excited to see what other tricks he has up his sleeve, but we definitely saw some new stuff. It wasn't like this crazy sort of surprisingly new, oh my God, everything's different playbook, but there were definitely some things that were new and surprising.
Yeah. And you kind of said it already. We're waiting for 23. We're waiting to get crazy and get some 32 in there. But
yeah,
for the small sample size of week 1, really good production out of the offense. And I mean, there's some little things too, like, the goal line stands. Like, I personally, I don't know about you, I was a little surprised we didn't see AJ Dillon in there for like one attempt, like try and tackle tree trunk quads. I would like to see it. You
drafted him to beat for those scenarios. I agree with you. LaFleur said in his press conference today, hindsight's 2020. I think if I could go back and do it, I'd call some different plays. I think he got a little cute, but
it's week 1.
But we still saw some
AJ Dillon. Matters.
Yeah, we did. We dropped 40. Also, the thing about this to me is like, imagine, because you and I were obviously chatting throughout the game, and that first half, essentially, like we should have been up 21-7, and we were only up 8-7. So this was, I think, as a final score, if you just look at it without context, it looks like it was a much closer game than it was. It was not close. Every time the Vikings scored, we came back and scored as well. It was never really that close. We shut them out in the third quarter, and they scored 24 points in the fourth quarter, which was essentially garbage time at that point. So it wasn't a close game by like any stretch of the imagination. And the thing about it too is that there's enough for us to clean up. Like, we could have had a better game, which is also very exciting because, that just means that the ceiling is even higher.
Yeah. And I think like those are the things that, the Packers will definitely improve on. Part of it, I know that the Vikings didn't have Danielle Hunter, that he's on IR, but the Packers had a reshuffling for almost the entire game.
Let's talk about the O-line.
Okay, let's do it. I had said on Pack-A-Day on Wednesday that I thought Elton Jenkins made the most sense starting at right tackle, just because you want your best players to be your bookends. So Elton Jenkins is the second best player on your offensive line. You slide him over. Lucas Patrick is good. He's serviceable. So that made sense. It just absolutely gutted for Lane Taylor. I think we agree that just, he looked so good. He so deserved the starting right guard spot. We had talked about it on this show previously on Packs What She Said, that he was a shoo-in for that spot. Yeah. He had deserved it. But then to see John Runyon, like Kyle says, like just the fact that you can kind of keep fitting the puzzle together. And Matt LaFleur had said, like, all offseason, like, we need to find the best 5 guys. Well, they had to go through 8, and they still found, different combinations that worked. And, no pressures. I think Lucas Patrick gave up 1 pressure, and the other 3 were on Aaron Rodgers because he's Aaron Rodgers, and by nature he will get himself into trouble sometimes just because it's who he is. But really impressive performance from that O-line.
No, I completely agree. I was definitely worried about them coming into this game. If there was like of the main things that I was sure about, I was sure that the line was going to be potentially a little bit of a problem. I think we got a little bit of a break because Danielle Hunter was out. Yannick was, I don't know if it was new. David Bakhtiari took care of that man, but he was new. He just came into the building. I think he was like nursing a little bit of an ankle injury. I don't know if that was, maybe heightened a little bit because the Vikings were salty that they lost, but he was playing, he couldn't do anything. And so the line was getting 0 pressure on Aaron Rodgers. And we have to give credit to John Runyon, to Elton Jenkins for sliding into spots that they, first of all, Elton slid not just, I don't think people understand, like, and this is something that I've definitely learned a lot this offseason, how difficult it is. You can, sliding from guard to tackle on the same side of the line is one thing. Sliding from the left to the right side, you have to basically reverse every single thing that you do, your hands, your feet, your footwork, everything. And so the fact that he could do that and then mid-game go back and just be just as effective is just, it's so impressive. It's so impressive. And yeah, I mean, John Runyon, I think there was a lot of, you know, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Negative energy around the fact that the Packers drafted 3 offensive linemen in the 6th round. And to me, I think this was one of the best decisions that they did. Obviously, now we have injuries on the line, and we have someone who, in his very first game in the NFL, had to step up and slide in there and protect Aaron Charles Rodgers. And he did it beautifully. I mean, he let up not a single, it was clean. It was a clean game. As Andy Herman said yesterday when we were recording, Aaron Rodgers' jersey was clean the entire game. He didn't get sacked once. And for someone who tends to hold the ball a lot and asks a lot of his offensive line in terms of timing, it says so much about that line.
Yeah. And I mean, we've talked about this. We agree on the priority ranking, but God, if you needed any more evidence that David Bakhtiari needs a 3rd contract in Green Bay and that man needs to get locked up sooner rather than later.
They need to do it now. I'm going to have like a heart attack if they keep waiting. I agree.
To watch him lock up Yannick for 8 minutes and then, or 8 seconds. He could do it for 8 minutes, but yeah, just impressive stuff.
Yeah, very impressive. And then Rick came in, even though he was nursing an injury, and he did great. I think, you know, whenever you don't hear an offensive lineman's name called during a game, it means they're having a good game. They also, think underratedly, had no penalties. We didn't have a false start. Like, I know that the crowd noise maybe plays a factor in that, but just no holding, no false starts, no penalties, just a really, really clean game. So we can talk about the other side of it, where let's finish off the offense with the man, the myth, the legend.
All right.
We gotta call offsides and we gotta play off. Like, I think that's all we wanted to see. But he went off. Anyone claiming that Aaron Rodgers is washed up,
get out of here.
You're wrong. You're just wrong.
Just leave happy hour. Just get out.
You're just wrong. And like, I've listened to so much NFL coverage today. It's been on like pretty much all day.
Yep.
And the narratives, is it going to work with LaFleur, all of that. It was only one game, but I think it's completely squashed now. Yeah,
I think my favorite take from like hot takes after the game was I think it was Mike Renner. Somebody had said, when is a Galaxy Brain going to write that the Packers only drafted Jordan Love to put a fire under Aaron Rodgers? And I don't care. Like,
I don't care.
If Jordan Love is a Hall of Famer, love it, perfect. If he's not, and we get 2 rings out of Aaron Rodgers because he's salty, love it more. Like,
yeah. I mean, he threw for 4 touchdowns, 526 yards of offense, I think it was, against the Vikings. They had no answers for Devontae Adams, none. Like, and Aaron, it wasn't just that he was making plays like he normally does. I think the biggest thing that I noticed was it was within scheme. It was clearly what the play calls were meant to be. He was operating within the offense, and that is so huge for him, because we saw at the end of McCarthy, look, like, I don't like saying bad things about McCarthy, but clearly by the end of his tenure, things had just completely disintegrated, and Rodgers was just audibling all the time. But he's not. He's operating within the scheme, and then we still got him, flushed out of the pocket and making beautiful throws, and that I know he had some beautiful touchdowns, but I have to say the most underrated one of the day was the one to Lazard, little sidearm.
I hope Aaron gets this. Like,
please don't. But just, I mean, just vintage throws, but also operating within the offense, and that's going to be huge.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was important for him. I think it was important for the offense. I think it was important for the media. Like, I think that this, and everybody in the comments, people are talking about, like, we can't get too excited. It was the Vikings. They have a young secondary. Like, I got it.
Yes.
But I'm excited.
But also, here's my thing about that. We should, if we are a good team, a contender team that we think can make it to the Super Bowl, we should be dropping 40 points on a shitty secondary. That's what we should be doing. We should be, our offense should be clicking in that way. So to me, it's not like, oh, but the Vikings were bad. Yeah, but if we had come out and only scored 21 points against that bad team, then I'd be like, but we didn't. We only punted once. Yeah. The offense was working. All right, we have tons of questions. Yes, this just like threw me for a loop. You have any other thoughts on the offense, or should we switch to the other side of the ball?
We should switch because I can talk about the offense for a really long time.
I know. Okay, so let's start with the guys up front. I love this. Robin, I wanted to come back to this comment. Don't worry, I saw it. I'm seeing everyone, so we're gonna get to everything. Rashawn Gary, yeah. Really impressive first game. I think that for me, the pass rush left a little to be desired. I don't know if my expectations were too high or the offensive line did really well. The Vikings offensive line did really well, but I expected a little bit more pressure on Kirk. I expected more sacks. I don't know. I know Rashawn he took Kirk down. I don't know if it was considered a sack. It may have been must have been like a 1 yard gain, but
yeah, from behind.
Yeah. But we only had the 2 sacks on Kirk. And I know I shouldn't be complaining about 2 sacks, but it just felt like we weren't getting nearly as much pressure as we did at least last season.
Yeah, I mean, by all accounts, like, Bradbury looked better. Like, their offensive line did better than I think any of us were willing to give them credit for. Like, at least, like, on Happy Hour last week, on Pack a Day, I talked about this a little bit. We talked about this on Packs, what she said. Like, we thought that this game was going to come down to the Packers' edge rush against the Vikings O-line, and that was almost neutralized. Like, it really came down to the play of both secondaries and the play of both quarterbacks and the play of both running backs. Like, Dalvin Cook still had himself a day.
Yes.
Dalvin Cook is a fantastic player. Adam Thielen is going to get his catches. Like, he's a fantastic player. Kirk Cousins, I said it on Happy Hour, we love to hate Kirk Cousins, but he is a serviceable quarterback that could take his team to the Super Bowl if he had the surrounding talent. And last season, he was missing a serviceable O-line. So he's not a guy you want to sleep on. Like, this was a good Vikings team, by all accounts, could have been better, but I think I think we expected to see a little bit more pressure than we did, but
yeah. And they did a pretty good job of neutralizing them. I think we did get pressure on Kirk, but just not what we expect out of our edge rushers, which is complete and utter domination. So again, like, the expectations are high, but let's talk about one of the sacks. That was, no joke, the highlight of my Sunday. Like, my Sunday only went down. No, we won, so it didn't go downhill. But Jair Alexander, I think that this was the turning point of the game. And the reason I think that is because we had just stalled out. We had 2 drives. We only got 3 points out of them. Yes, they got a turnover on downs at the 1 yard line, but so not good field position for the Vikings for sure. But Jair really, really went instinctual here. And I think, and we talked about this pre-show, but I think this is one of those plays where if it works, game changing. If it doesn't work, game changing in the wrong direction. And he really, I think he's so funny in his press conferences. He does not give any information away, but he explained that, it wasn't his assignment. He thought that they were going for the run, and instead of backing it out when he realized that it was going to be a pass play, he just said, you know what, I'm already in it. I'm just going to go full throttle. He went unblocked, sacked Kirk Cousins for a safety. That was some Charles Woodson shit. That was, I think, that I thought of. Same. And my dad and I looked at each other and we were like, oh my God. Because that is, I know that this, I trust myself and my instincts, and I'm going to go make a play. And I'm going to completely change the game. I mean, it did. We got 2 points, so it brought the game closer. They had to kick the ball away, and then we went down and we only scored 3 points on the next drive, but I just think the momentum was ours after that, and it never stopped. He got another interception. Just he was the difference maker in this game, and I think for someone that we believe is going to be a true well-rounded lockdown corner, that's the kind of stuff you want to see from him.
Yeah, and this is the stuff that you want to see from year 3 players. Like I talked about this a little bit earlier with MVS, but Jair's going into year 3, and granted, his year 1 and year 2 like exceptional compared to MVS. But we have to remember that MVS was dealing with injuries. But like this is the 3rd season for these guys, and this is when you put it all together. So MVS putting it all together looks a lot different than Jair because by all accounts, Jair kind of already had it put together, and now he's like putting it together at an all-pro level instead of just like being really good. Yeah, I mean, he's doing everything so far that everything that we kind of went into last offseason saying, if he can do X, Y, Z, he's going to be up here. Like, he's already right here, but he can be up here. He already did it. Like, again, small service size, but it's not like he was playing a slouch. Like, it was Adam Thielen. Yep. It was Kirk Cousins. Like,
Kirk Thielen and Kirk beat him on a touchdown. Like,
yeah.
And I'll give it to Kirk. It was a beautiful pass. It was drop in the bucket. Jair really couldn't have done anything to stop that. But otherwise, they had everyone else pretty much locked down. I thought Kevin had a great day. I think he's another player. Whenever you don't hear his name, it's a good thing. Like, he had a really good day. They pretty much neutralized Justin Jefferson, Kyle Rudolph, Irv Smith Jr. The only 2 weapons that we couldn't really stop were Dalvin Cook and Adam Thielen. And when you really only have to game plan for 2 players, I think we probably should have done a better job. I was not like I'd rate the defense like a B- in this game. And we can talk about the run game in a little bit. But for the most part, besides that touchdown and Savage sort of biting on the other Thielen touchdown, our secondary performed admirably.
Yeah, and I think like we didn't really, touch on this right away, but talking about neutralizing the edge rush, the Packers lost Kenny Clark really early, and we still don't have any updates as to kind of what that looks like. But their starting base defense was Kenny Clark, Kingsley Keke, Dean Lowry, and then when Clark went down, where do you run? You run to the middle of the field where Kenny Clark has vacated. Like, you're not going to try and take it outside when you have Z or P or Rashawn. Like, it made things a lot easier. And I know that, Vikings fans could argue that without having Danielle Hunter, it was easier for the Packers to run the ball. And that's true. But, losing Kenny Clark, I think, was without a doubt the most significant aspect of the game, because we saw what the O-line did when they came in. And, you still had the consistency. Aaron Rodgers didn't get touched hardly. But yeah, losing Kenny Clark was really impactful, I think, for the amount of pressure that they were able to generate.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think that interior pressure is not something that you notice until it's gone.
Yeah.
And it was gone. And I think also in terms of, being able to stop Dalvin Cook, like, I think we did as well as we could without Kenny, but that it's going to be better with Kenny. And I worry about what's going to happen if we lose him for any length of significant time, because we go up against some serious running backs. We have Alvin Kamara in 2 weeks. We've got, after the bye, obviously, so hopefully it's enough time, but we go up against Christian McCaffrey this year. We go up against Derrick Henry. Like, we need Kenny Clark, and I don't know if there's anybody else on there who's ever going to get even close to the level of production that he has in terms of run stuffing and pressure. We know what the other 3 guys are. Maybe Kingsley Keke can make a jump, but we know who Dean Lowry and Tyler Lancaster are. And when they're good, but they're nothing like Kenny Clark.
Well, and I think that that's part of the problem. Like, Packers fans wanted to sign Snacks Harrison. If they elevate Daylon Mack from the practice squad, Prevalon, if they somehow brought back Trayvon Hester, I know he had an injury settlement, like he was waived injured. Everything that you now have, like, at your disposal, you're basically looking for a traditional nose tackle. Like, Kenny Clark was unique in that he was a nose tackle that could generate pressure. Like, if you need a big body to stop the run, you have Tyler Lancaster. You elevate, like I said, a guy like Daylon Mack. They're there to stuff the run, which works, but then you lose all of that interior pressure. So it's really, really, really hard to replace a guy like Kenny Clark who can do so many things. Like, I know that he's listed as a defensive tackle, but my goodness, like
No, he's
anybody
more
that
than
they could
that.
bring in, exactly, anybody that they could bring in can maybe fill like 60%. You know, like it's never going to even compare or come close to that production.
Yep. And I think, and someone had a comment earlier, and I'm sorry I can't scroll up and find it, but someone asked about like, well, what about the defense dropping 34 points? And I want to caveat this by saying like this game was over quite early, and I don't like what we did in the fourth quarter at all. I think we need to finish games. I think if they're gonna dink and dunk against us, like fine, but they got some serious chunk plays, and my biggest issue, and I'm sure you know what I'm about to say, is right before the end of the half, they had 2 huge chunk plays and were able to score a field goal against us. And I just think that just can't happen. It just can't happen. You have to be able to finish games. And like the Vikings, they're a newer offense with newer pieces. We're going to go up against some very complete offenses, and we can't play like that. We just can't, because maybe that last second field goal is a last second touchdown if we're playing the 49ers, and that is game changing. And I think the garbage time points, like, no, I feel like you and I have talked about this too, where we rewatched the sort of 2010, 2011 defenses this offseason, and they will shut you out. We could be up 32-0. I just made that score up, but like, you know what I mean? And they're still not going to give you anything. And that's the kind of energy we need to bring if we are going to make it to the Super Bowl, because ultimately another NFC championship game isn't the goal. It's another ring.
Well, yeah. And I think it's kind of hard to say, like, you know, if you look at what the Packers kind of lacked last season, it was that the defense couldn't get off the field and they were getting gassed. The Packers had the ball for almost 42 minutes yesterday. Like,
yeah,
your defense traditionally is used to playing between 25 and 35 minutes. So, like, to say that hey, Tom, to say that they were like gassed after 18 minutes, like they were quick drives. Like the Vikings stuck around for far too long, and Matt LaFleur basically said it in his presser. You know, that you can't. Like, you have to finish. It's the same, like, all gas, no fucking break thing that we've been talking about. You know, it was the mantra last season. Like, once you start, you have to finish. And and the defense, they finished. Like, it was a serviceable performance, but it needs to be elevated, especially if Kenny Clark misses any significant time.
That is such a good way to put it. Serviceable is exactly how I would put it. It was not. It left a lot to be desired. That's, I guess, the best way I can put it. But let's talk about someone who did have an amazing day, a shocking day, in an undrafted free agent who was cut last week, brought back, and is now starting next to Christian Kirksey. I'm going to let you take this one. Chris Barnes.
Chris Barnes is somebody that I was really excited about in training camp, but he was one of those people that I was like, not going to let myself get excited, because he is just beyond buried on the depth chart. Like Kamal Martin, Oren Burks, Ty Summers, even Curtis Bolton. Like, there's no way, right? Like, talented dude, no way.
Yeah.
And here he is. And I'm kind of like walking this line where I don't know if I should be more impressed with Chris Barnes and the fact that he came from undrafted to the roster, or if I should be really freaked out about Oren Burks and Ty Summers. Like,
bingo.
I don't know. I kind of lean both ways. Like, I'm impressed. And, you know, the tape that I've seen so far, Chris Barnes has instincts. Like, he saved the touchdown at one point. Like, he looked good. And it's exciting. Like, if the Packers find their complement, their 1-2 punch in Kirksey, and it happens to be Barnes, and if Kamal Martin comes back off IR, like, you know, towards the end of the season and he looks really good, then that's exciting and you have your guys for the future. But the fact that Burks and Summers aren't your guys yet, I don't know how to feel about that, honestly.
I could not agree with you more. And this is something that I've also been sort of weighing, is like, great. Chris Barnes, what a surprise. We love that. We love finding, the Packers love their hidden gem undrafted free agents. We live for them. Give me Tremont Williams 2.0 all day long. But at the same time, you are spot on. Where is your third round pick who should be the guy that's in there? Like, why isn't Oren Burks? And then even after that, they raved about Ty Summers in camp. No Ty Summers. It's a little alarming. And at the same time, like you said, if they have found something special, great. But then I'm like, what's wrong with the other two? Like, what are we missing here? And I should pay attention a little bit more to special teams. I do. But like, were they playing on special teams? I'm sure they were, but we don't draft someone in the third round to be a special teamer, and especially a special teamer that doesn't even like block punts. You know what I mean? Like, what are they bringing to the table? I agree with you. It's definitely like, it's like emoji grimace face.
I think the most interesting part about all of this is that by all accounts, Barnes kind of came out of nowhere. Like, when you talk about undrafted rookies who had like a really good shot at the roster, it was like Stanford Samuels, or like we talked about surprise, roster additions, and it's like Tipa Nalei.
It was not him.
John Lovett. Yeah, nowhere was anybody like, who it is, it's Barnes. And I love that. Like, that's fantastic. But at the same time, again, it's just like, okay.
How? It's just like, how? Yeah. And I talked about this with Andy last night too, because Andy in the presser was like, ask LaFleur, like, what's the deal? Like, how did you go from releasing someone to then bringing them back on the practice squad? Fine, expected. To then starting him week 1. Like, there is just something that is missing to me. And obviously Matt LaFleur did not answer. And obviously he just like really beat around the bush because he's not going to reveal that. But there's something missing. And I don't know. I'm curious to see what happens next week. I don't see any reason why Chris Barnes is going to be taken out of the starting lineup. Like, he did nothing on Sunday to show us that he doesn't deserve to be on the field.
Yeah. I mean, it was like a momentary, like, 51, because you're like, okay, is it going to be 44? Is it going to be 48? And then we're like, what? Like,
my dad was like, who's 51? And I was like, I don't know. And he was like, you don't know? And I was like, I don't know.
I love it. I just like, he was one of those guys that he came into training camp and I was like, okay, like, he is the definition of a long shot. And I think that's what makes it so fun. Like, anytime you have a player like that where it's like, the odds are just stacked against them. And then,
yeah,
like, KB Nento to me was kind of that guy last year where he was a wide receiver. They converted him to corner. Then he gets injured. For him to make the 53, even though now he's on IR, like,
yeah,
those are the stories that you live for, like, as a football fan. Like, it's just, I could not be happier for him. Like, I'm so excited to see what he does next week.
No, I completely agree. Okay, so flipping it, your man Kirko, he started.
Okay, yeah.
How do you think week 1 went?
I mean, like, I feel like it's hard to get a good sense, just based on the limited reps that we saw. But I do think that the athleticism is there. I think he was kind of flying around, and I think that if you look at, like, from a speed perspective, I know that Kirk Cousins outran him for first down at one point, which is not ideal. But I would also like to think that if you swapped him out with the people that played inside linebacker the last couple seasons, it would not have been any better. So I think from an athleticism standpoint, there's been a significant improvement. And
he still led the team in tackles.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's. Oh no, I have to sneeze. No, I'm fine.
I was gonna say, am I supposed to talk?
No, I don't know. I was like, oh no, not live. But yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, serviceable. Besides, like you said, I mean, Kirk was way more mobile than I expected, and I think it was just a case of, like,
kind of gross.
Just breakdown. He had no one to throw it to.
Yeah.
Whatever. It's not normally what he does. But besides that, I think Kirksey had a good game. Again, it's just he was there when he needed to be. And there was a penalty on him at one point. I don't remember what the penalty was, but I thought it was complete bullshit. I remember looking at him being like, what are you seeing there? I think it was like a holding maybe or something. I was like, that's weak. But yeah, happy to have him. He looks so good in the green and gold. It looks like he was like meant to be. Sorry, Mark, but
I know, like,
Yeah.
I feel like I have like this unnatural love of Christian Kirksey because I watched him play for so long in,
Yeah.
the orange and brown. But then whenever he taught, like they gave him, the phone for the post game thing, and he was like, "Guys, we want to know." And I was like, "Oh my god, baby, you're winning! You're on winning team."
I saw that. I was like, wait, week 1.
Like, this must be so new to you poor thing.
Oh yeah. Oh my god. I don't think he's ever won a week 1 in his career. Because I saw a stat today. That the last time the Browns won their week 1 opening was 2004. And let me tell you, I was 9 years old. So Christian Kirksey was definitely not playing. But yeah, I think there's definitely some things to clean up in terms of the defense, right? Like it's just a little bit more complete. I think if we lose Kenny for any length of time, and I'm praying to the football gods, praying. If you believe in God, pray to him. If you believe in something else, pray to that too. That we don't lose don't lose Kenny for any length of time. But someone's gonna need to step up, or Pettin is gonna have to scheme up more pressure.
Yeah.
It's the only solution. And I think the latter is something that we're actually capable of doing. But I don't know if he's going to have to ease up on the dime. I don't know. Yes, exactly. Someone just said groins are tricky. Agreed. Like you don't want to put him back out there too quickly and have it get worse. But it's a tough injury that can linger.
I was going to say it's going to linger probably more than.
Yeah, and Kenny is a tough dude. He's going to want to battle it out, but I'd so much rather him maybe like sit for a week or 2 and like really heal that up rather than pushing him to the point where it becomes something worse than it originally was.
This is one of those situations where having an early bye week is to your benefit. Like everybody hates the early bye, but kind of the way that this thing lined up for the Packers this year is a lot of their really tough shit is in front of them the first half of the season. And I'm not saying like the Titans are going to be like a rollover game or anything like that. I think they're going to be really good this year, but the first half is, it's a gauntlet. Like to have that early bye, if you can even rest Kenny until the bye and give him that opportunity to heal properly. Like we heard from Devontae Adams with turf toe where he was like missed 4 games, still played through it. Yeah, it took him until like March or April to actually feel 100% when he could put his foot up and rest it. Like it could be one of those things.
And turf toe is I think a similar injury to a groin injury where it really lingers. It really does. When I heard Devontae say that, I was like, you were what during the divisional round game? Like, excuse me? Like, are you sure? But I guess he's right because look at what he just did at 100%. Yeah, I just think that I don't know. I mean, I think our hardest stretch by far of the season is post bye. And so I like the way it's scheduled in that way. Although I don't know, Tampa didn't look very good the other night. So
we're gonna talk about Tampa. We're gonna talk about
we're not gonna. No, because I'm so sick of it. I'm gonna go on a little bit of a tangent right now.
I
listen to a ton about the NFL. ESPN Daily, Around the NFL podcast. I listen to it all. Every single one today started with talking about Tom Brady with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it's just like, really? Like, really? Like, ESPN Daily was like, we're going to talk about quarterbacks and didn't mention Aaron Rodgers once. And I don't mean that as like a salty Packers fan. I don't mean that at all. Aaron Rodgers had a MVP caliber day, and you're going to spend half your episode talking about washed up Tom Brady. Like, I'm just over it. Okay. We're back.
We are back.
Sorry. Okay. So let's switch gears a little bit. And like, I think we have, yes, love that sound. I think that we have kind of like really synthesized the Viking games. I know I've really like kind of ingested it and watched a little bit of. I didn't get a chance to watch any film today because my day job is on one, but I watched a good amount of videos, and I think that we've like really ingested what happened yesterday. So I want to pivot a little bit and kind of talk about what we hope to see week 2 against the Lions.
Okay. I'm going to start with this. Nope, not that. I'm going to start with this. This has to be my dad. So during yesterday's game, I almost said last night's, My dad and I had conceptualized an idea to have a Zadarius Smith sack tracker on top of the candle. Perry and I tried to do
We'll
it
have it
pre-show. Didn't look good. Kind of blurry. You couldn't really see it. So we're going to make like a cool banner that tracks Zadarius Smith sacks, and it'll be here next week. But honestly, I think that kind of segues into the Lions game. Like, I want to see more pressure.
Yeah.
I think it was Duke in the comments earlier had said, like, what happened to Preston Smith? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful to the guy, but like you said earlier, like the amount of pressure that this Packers defense got, not what we had expected. Like it definitely could have been, we expected to see a lot more, like whether it was, Rashawn or Zadarius kind of rushing over center. Like they had all these opportunities to kind of generate pressure and force Dalvin Cook, to skirt around, and it didn't happen. So I think that's kind of going to be what I'm looking for next week, is to see kind of if we see a turnaround with this defense. Because, I mean, I guess turnaround is not the right word, because, again, we said the word was serviceable. A cleanup, that's a better word. Yeah.
I completely agree. We're not going up against, one of the best running backs in the league next week, but we are going up against a team that has a decent running back sort of trio. Now we have what's his face? Adrian Peterson. What's his face? Right in the Lions backfield. I think that after what happened this past week, DeAndre Swift is going to come
Poor
out
DeAndre
here
Swift.
with.
I felt so bad for him.
I know.
My God.
You and I talk about this too. Like, I would be so much more inclined to like root for certain Lions players if they weren't in our division. Like Matt Stafford, his family like melts my heart. But you're in the NFC North, so I can't like you.
Yeah.
But DeAndre Swift, like, you never want to see a rookie come out and have a day like that. Like that, the Lions, like I said on Pack-A-Day this morning, the Lions gonna lion. Like, they just find a way to lose games. It's just like, I think they had like a 98% chance of winning. And it's just like, and like, it sucks to watch that happen to a rookie. Like, nobody wants that to happen to a rookie. So I think he's going to come out with, a little bit more of vengeance. I think the one thing that we have to be on watch for is Kenny Golladay a go or not?
Yeah.
With or without Kenny Golladay is a very, very different ball game. And he does things against the Packers. He's a deep threat that always somehow connects against the Packers. And I definitely I'm always, and I love our secondary. I think our secondary is quite good, but it's one of those things where Kenny he does something against them. And yeah, is Jeff, someone just commented about the cornerbacks. Jeff Okudah was also out this week. Is Jeff Okudah going to be a go? So there are definitely some things to watch for that will be potentially game-changing pieces. I think the one thing for me, I loved the offense this week. I'd love to just keep it going, like just on the right track. Just give me more tight end. I don't know where Jace was. I don't know where Tanyan was. I want some more tight end in the middle of the field. I just want some more tight end, period. But at the end of the day, I think just keep doing what they did this week.
Yeah, I mean, Jace kind of had that play early where it was just kind of out of his reach, and it kind of looked like he had slowed down instead of kind of, catching up to the ball. And you just saw Aaron Rodgers, like his face just kind of dropped. And I looked at my dad and I was like, well, he's not going to get any targets for like the foreseeable future. And I know that's not true, but like,
I don't know. That was not like the best. Like, that was good coverage.
Right. And he had to put it out where the DB couldn't get it. So, I mean, it was tricky. But Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. He's got his expectations.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think he definitely needs. I think what I would agree with there is Jace needs to make more of the opportunities that he's given.
Yeah.
But he was a monster blocker.
Absolutely.
Monster blocker. And if that gets us, a huge Aaron Jones run like we saw on Sunday, then he's doing what he should be doing. I just don't think we drafted Jace to be a monster blocker. I think we drafted Jace to be a pass catching tight end. But again, like, people were really high on Tanyan. We didn't see much of that. Honestly, Josiah DeGuara stole the show.
He absolutely did.
He stole the show. And I don't know if Dusty Evely ever watches this, but every time Josiah DeGuara did anything on offense, I was like, Dusty! Like,
same with MVS.
Yeah, like, so excited.
I
think he did like some kind of wheel route situation, and I was like, Dusty is going nuts right now.
Yep.
So I'm really excited to see what else Josiah pulls out of him and Matt LaFleur's bag of tricks. But I want some more tight end.
That is like, okay, we joked, it was Aaron Rodgers that said hashtag friendship goals with him and Matt LaFleur.
Yeah.
The real bromance of this conference is Josiah DeGuara and Matt LaFleur. Like, there's no hiding it at this
No
point.
one loves a player more than Matt LaFleur loves Josiah DeGuara. Like, I listened to his press conference today. He glows.
Oh,
he
yeah.
Gushes
He's like
about this.
Like Sanjay.
Yes. So, yeah, he's going to get more. He's all in. Matt, I completely agree. I think we do see some more AJ Dillon at the goal line. I think that's maybe something that they go back and look at and say, maybe in the third and second goal and third and goal in those first drives, maybe we put AJ Dillon in there.
When your quads are 52 inches around.
Yeah, that's maybe what we do. And, again, like the Lions defense is also just like quite mediocre. And so I think that we can pull very similar plays against their defense. Why are you laughing?
That's Aaron's comment. Aaron, I told you, date Browns fans. I don't expect much.
Aaron, this is my goal. Like, this is the ultimate form of love because it's also like reverence.
Matt LaFleur loves Josiah DeGuara.
This is like reverence love. You know what I mean? Like, put you on a pedestal love. Like, that's what you want. Anyway, Aaron. I don't think Aaron Jones is going to get 4 touchdowns against the Lions. Do I think that as a whole, as a team?
No, like Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones combined.
Oh, sorry, I misunderstood. Facebook user.
So yes.
Yes. Definitely, yeah. Definitely. I think as a whole, we get 4 touchdowns against the Lions. Yes. Who are the highlights on the Lions defense? Is Trey Flowers still on this team?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Trey Flowers.
Jamie Collins got ejected. He would be somebody to look out for in the middle of the defense.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff Okudah is what likely will be his NFL debut will be just interesting. Do I think that it's going to be like a Jeff Gladney situation from this past weekend? No. I think he's going to be better than that. But and Cameron Dantzler too. He's also a new one. But I think Jeff Okudah is still going to be a rookie cornerback that Aaron Rodgers is going to pick apart. So yeah, I think that we have a very good chance of going 2-0 for the start of the season. I see no reason if we come out, the same way we did this past weekend that we're not going to blow the top off the Lions. I know that the home field advantage isn't necessarily a thing anymore, but I think for a lot of these new guys, first game at Lambeau Field is very meaningful regardless of who's in the stands or not. And so I think being home is going to be still a little bit, they're going to feel it.
I mean, the Lions have had the Packers number. Matt LaFleur said it in his presser. He was like, yeah, we didn't actually lead in either game. We won on a last-second field goal as time expired. This team gets it. But I think when you put up 40 points against a division rival in week 1 on the road, and a team that is historically loud, and a team that cheered your quarterback getting a broken collarbone, it's therapeutic. And then you go home to Lambeau. I kind of think about the wear and tear on these guys' bodies from a travel standpoint alone. Where a couple seasons ago when the Packers went to Minnesota, they went to Mall of America and hung out. There's all this shit now that nobody's able to do with COVID where it's you go to your hotel and you sit there, and it's draining to sit. Not to whine about sitting, but when you're in quarantine, there's not a lot you can do. So these guys don't have the same opportunities to engage or stay active or kind of distract themselves. When you're home and you don't have that taxing travel where you feel like you're in a road bubble, I fully expect Lambeau Field to be kind of that sanctuary for the Packers this year. Knowing that you don't have to be the travel team, I think it makes a difference, honestly.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think that there's something to be said just about being home in general. The feeling this is my house, this is my turf. You're not going to come in here and beat me at my home field. Packers historically do very well at home, very well. And I don't think that I mean, I always think the crowd has something to do with it. I've never been to Lambeau Field. I think you can talk to this, but like the atmosphere I have heard something quite special when fans are there. But at the same time, it's still this idea that like you're not going to come into my house and trample all over me, just like we did to the Vikings. But I do want to like level set expectations, and that I don't think we're going to come in this week and drop 40 plus points on the Lions. Like I mean, if we do, great, but I don't think that's going to be, that's not something that we can consistently do.
I'm just kidding. We can't.
I don't want to set the expectation in my head that that's something that we can consistently do, but I do think this is going to be a high scoring game from the Packers perspective, maybe more in like the 31 to 35 range. But yeah, which tight end gets the first touchdown? We can end on this, gets a touchdown first.
Josiah DeGuara on a wheel route.
My God, you're going to make Dusty's head pop
because
off.
Kendricks is like the best middle linebacker in the NFL, and wheel routes work when you don't have like an elite inside linebacker. Yeah.
I think that doing what we did against Kendricks was impressive in the fact that, like you said, he's phenomenal. And so if we replicate that in the sense that we're going up against definitely worse linebackers and against the Lions. Yeah. Hey, Big B. We're at the end, but
you missed the Jamal Williams chat up.
I did. I gushed about Jamal, and you weren't here for it. I'm sorry. He was my fantasy sleeper for this week. He did okay. He got me like 6.5 points.
Alan Lazard is mine, so
I'm still winning in the league. Sorry, Dan.
I'm losing.
So we got 3 minutes left. Final thoughts.
Aaron Charles Rodgers is going to get himself his third MVP. Look the fuck out, NFL.
Yes, we got a curse from Maggie. Okay. Yeah.
What's yours, Perry? I don't know.
What are my final thoughts?
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is not washed up. And if you are going to go into it, I know, but this is for everybody else out there. If you think you're going to go into a game and stop that bad man from doing what he does, you are so wrong. You are so wrong. And I really think, based off of what I heard today, he really put the league on notice. He really went out there and said, I'm still here and I may be 36 years old, but you're going to get some good fucking football out of me.
Just imagine being Aaron Rodgers when you're 36.
Revenge tour. Honestly, like, I think Rodgers for MVP this year is not going to be a long shot. So let's see how the rest of the season goes. We've got more football. We've got 2 games tonight, which is why we're an hour early, because we want to give everyone the chance to watch Monday Night Football. The Freezer podcast, which usually comes on after us, has moved to Tuesday nights because of Monday Night Football. So if you want to follow and watch the Freezer guys, which you should, they are now on Tuesday nights. Everything you can find at Game On Wisconsin.
And Sanjay's not going to have hair. Sanjay doubted the Vikings.
Lost a bet.
And the Packers, matchup. He bet his hair. His hair was on the line. Packers put up a 40 burger, and that means that Sanjay's gonna not have hair tomorrow. So definitely tune in and check that out, because good thing his wedding was Friday and Saturday.
Good thing.
Pictures would have just been.
So Freezer Sanjay without hair is gonna be tomorrow night. Follow Maggie and I. Honestly, I'm not gonna list out all the things that we do. If you want to just find us in other forms, follow us both on Twitter. You can find me at Perry_Goldstein. You can find Maggie at Maggie J. Loney. And that is it for Happy Hour. I don't know how we crammed all that into an hour. Come back next Monday. We'll be breaking down the Lions and then looking forward to the Saints.
2 dubs.
And we're just on Dub City right now. So thank you all. Like and subscribe. Yes. Thank you all for joining. We really, really appreciate the comments and the questions. I'm sorry we didn't get to everything. We will do our best. And as always, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.